is Stewart, who is Director of Paintings in Hospitals, and he's also the owner and manager of this lovely gallery that we're in at the moment. And I'd like to ask Stewart to come up and say a few words about both of those organisations.
Thank you, Sue. I just want to make a quick word to say thank you very much to Bit of Bankside and to Sue for selecting the gallery as a venue to actually hold tonight's event. Paintings in Hospitals has been here for about 3 years, and in fact as an organisation we've been around for the last 48 years, but the last 3 years we've actually been in this particular space. And what you see here in the gallery is a shop window, as it were, to the street. And in the gallery we promote young and up-and-coming artists, but we try and actually do some work with the community as well, working with community groups within the local area. Paintings in Hospitals actually uses this space as a revenue stream to actually help our organisation survive. And the main focus of Paintings in Hospitals is to improve the healthcare spaces within NHS hospitals, hospices, and other wider healthcare environments. And we do that by offering 3 very specialised picture loan schemes. So currently our services have around 4,500 artworks within our collection, and they're actually spread across the country, across 6 regional branches. That's about it from us. So thank you again for coming.
Okay, on to our panel. And I'd like to ask each of them to just talk about themselves just for a few minutes so that you get a feel for the kind of their journey to how they're now sitting here in this place. Okay, so first of all, Nikki Scrivener, who is a director with Fourth Day Public Relations Company. Nikki.
Hi, sorry if I cough and splutter a little bit, I'll try not to. Firstly, thank you very much, Giles, I know can't be here, but Peter for asking me here tonight. We've been in the Bankside area since 2002 and really value the real sense of community that we feel here, so we're very proud to be part of it and very grateful to be part of this event as well. I've written a couple of notes which I probably won't read, but just to give you a potted history of me, I'm a co-founder of a PR company called Fourth Day, and we're based in Winchester Walk, just behind Borough Market. We specialise in business-to-business public relations, so only really working with clients that are targeting a business audience. I am 33 years old and I have 2 children, Arthur, who's 3, and Jude, who's nearly 9 months. So I'm literally just back at work a couple of months after my second maternity leave. In terms of my career, I did an English literature degree, and then I started with a graduate position at a PR company in Leicestershire. It wasn't a strategic plan. I just fell into a job where I could do some writing, and that's how it began. I then moved in-house because I wanted to get experience on the other side of the fence, and I worked at a commercial property company as a PR manager for a couple of years. I moved to London at the end of 1998 and joined a pan-European agency called Herald Communications, and it was here that I met my fellow co-founders of Fourth Day. The company that we worked for was acquired by a very large agency, and they announced this to us and said that nothing would change, and of course the next day everything had changed. So without going into the ins and outs of it, we decided to start again, and we opened for business as Fourth Day by ourselves, just the 4 of us, in January 2002. Just to give you a bit of background about Fourth Day, the name Fourth Day comes from the 12 Days of Christmas song. So the 4th day of Christmas was 4 calling birds, and as we were 4 women founding a company, that's pretty much what we were when we started out. We're really proud of what we've achieved nearly 6 years on. We're a growing team in London. We opened an office in Paris in July 2006, which Catry, I'm sure, not very original as a name, but a literal translation. And we're always looking for opportunities to develop our team and the company further. That's me.
Nikki, thanks very much. And then we come on to the first of our Joes tonight. We've got Jo Bacon, who is a partner with Allies and Morrison, and Jo also sits on the Environmental Group Committee for Better Bankside.
Yes, I think I probably have one of those headings, and Giles and Peter are very good at getting me. It says compulsive volunteer. But anyway, it's one of the trappings. I'm an architect. I trained in architecture, and I started architecture school in 1980. I did my 7 years, and just as I was qualifying in October 1987, Bob Allies, who had taught me in my final year, and his partner Graham Morrison put their first job advert in Building Design magazine. And I couldn't have been off my seat fast enough on that Friday afternoon to print my CV and get my letter across. I took the tube across, put my letter straight in the door that I wanted to go and work for them. I'd found him very inspirational at college, and managed to get through a whole list of other people to join them. And I was the fourth drawing board in those days, no computers. And that was 1987. We're now committed to Southwark. We're very committed to development generally in South London. We're working on a number of schemes adjacent to Waterloo at Elizabeth House, Rambert, Dance Academy, part of the Coin Street development, and the Lichfield-Davison Tower, the Central School of Drama, also in Paris Gardens, all the Bankside buildings, Bankside 1, 2 and 3 for land securities. There's a lot going on here, and there's a lot still that could be fantastic for South London. I think one of the extraordinary things about being a student architect in the 1980s was that you didn't go into architecture for money, and I find it rather amazing that people who come through the door these days, who the key question they're asking is, what is the salary? Mm-hmm. And you're kind of going, well, when I left college, what I wanted to do was go and work for somebody who inspired me. And one of the joys about growing from 4 people to 220 people is being surrounded by people who are committed and inspirational, and they're very exciting to work for. So being a successful business has grown out of really having a passion about something and delivering really good quality work that we're continue to be proud about. And it hasn't been from any sense of desire to make a particular amount of money. It has been a result, and we've been lucky enough to develop our own building, finding the old petrol site that is now our award-winning office building. And the other joy has been the variety in the work. I have worked on embassies, schools, private houses. I'm currently working on offices, university research centres, a tiny extension to a house that we built years ago. It must be the smallest job in the office, about £12,000, to projects that get up to £250 million for a master plan strategy. I'm not working on the Olympics, but that is probably the biggest job that's in London at the moment, and our practice has been very involved with the legacy master plan for the Olympics. So it's constantly coming in every day and feeling challenged and inspired, and I think Southwark is a great place to do that.
Thanks, Jo. Our last panel member, and our second Jo Arch, who is an account director with the team, a branding and communications consultancy.
Hello everyone. I'm going to thank Peter afterwards, maybe, depending on how the evening goes. I'll save that till later. I work for the team. We're a brand communications agency, just spitting distance up the road here, opposite the Hop Sellers, so very close. We've been here about 4 years now. We moved from Putney and have grown probably 50% in the last year only, but actually grown remarkably over the last 23 years. One of the partners in the company, the MD, is a founding partner, and we're quite an old agency, I guess, in London, being 23 years old. So yeah, we've been around the block a few times, and our reason for moving here primarily was we do a lot of work with the public sector. You mentioned the Olympics. We're one of 5 agencies involved in communications and what have you for the Olympics. Not the branding agency, hasten to add. But so opened a whole can of worms there. We could spend the next hour talking about that, I'm sure. But my particular area is in the private sector. I do a lot of work with technology companies, financial companies, not dissimilar to your business area. It's a great area to work within, very creative. In terms of how I got into the business, kind of by accident really, I guess. I was a very focused child, and I've kind of lost my way ever since, I think. From the point of being 6 and being made a seconder at my brownies, and getting in early before my sixer got in so I could take the money. And I was very focused at school, knew exactly what I wanted to do. I actually did a product design degree, and left college with no skills whatsoever for working life, and very luckily managed to get a place on a master's course, which had a European bursary attached to it, so to fund the course and also fund our living expenses whilst we were doing the course, we had a number of commercial projects, and that's really where I got my vocational experience, I guess, and thankfully found my way as a result, and ended up with a graduate post at British Telecom, who kindly paid my relocation expenses to London, and I've been here 10 years now, believe it or not, starting life as a Yorkshire lass, and really, I guess, felt after a couple of years that I'd sold out when I joined BT. I ended up in a very corporate environment, and really missed the creative side of things, so finding myself in a creative agency, I think I've found my home, so very happy to be at the team.
I know one question that's just struck me from listening to the three of them is, how on earth do you juggle the home life with the two young children? That must be a huge challenge.
It is difficult, and actually, of the 4 founders of Fourth Day, there are now 9 children, with one more on the way. So we've had our fair share of staffing challenges over the last 6 years. The thing that I do personally is that I work only 4 days in the office, and I have a day at home that's dedicated to the children, and because of technology now, and Blackberries and being able to work on the move, I managed to juggle it quite well. I mean, the thing that I say about Fourth Day and the managing partners is we all share each other's guilt, which helps us immensely, and that's guilt about not spending enough time in the office, maybe not committing yourself enough to work, and the guilt of not being at home enough. So we share that amongst us, and it seems to help.
Middle Joe.
Middle day, same question?
No, what I was going to ask you particularly, I don't know if this occurred to anyone else, you seem to have known from very early on that architecture was what you wanted to do. So would that be right?
My father had been involved in development and construction when I was growing up, but when I was about 12 I went to my cousin's landscape architect office in Seattle, where he was designing Seattle Zoo, and I stood around looking at these huge drawing boards which people stood at in America in those days, and I did find it very inspirational, and I think my father spent the next 6 years trying telling me that women made bloody awful architects and trying to encourage me to go into any other design degree, theatre design, textile design, all of which were of interest, than architecture. But actually when I got my place at architecture school, he has never turned around and been anything but supportive. But in the early 80s it was still a relatively few proportion of women in architecture schools. And few people continuing through. So it was, from a parental point of view, it was potentially more a challenge.
And one of the questions I actually got here was, did you know what achievement or success in your chosen profession would look like when you started out?
No, I mean one of the things that one thought about was how flexible a career it can be, and I had always imagined that there might come a time where I'd want to be in sole practice because that would suit a family life. The truth is I enjoy the conversations about design with the team too much, and the idea of being there struggling on one's own relatively late into the night in order to sort it out for the client the next morning is much less enjoyable than staying behind and having a team of 6 people all getting to that deadline if you have to. So it hasn't turned out how I expected in my career from those very early days. There are an amazing number of women in a range of positions in the construction industry, and I don't come across many project managers, but I know that and I'm going to call it new change, but I might have the land securities development slightly incorrect, but the construction company leader, project manager, is a woman. Land securities project manager is a woman, and one of the key architects on the team is a woman, and I met them all recently, and that's a royal flush, but it's unusual. There are actually some very key people in project management who are women. There's a lady called Jo Kennedy who heads up Arab project management, and she's probably been heading that up now, I would say, for about 5 or 6 years. So there are some very good role models, but I don't know the proportion in project management. I mean, I don't see it as a. I mean, I can recognise it, but I think it's changing and coming through.
Anyone else have any questions at this point?
Is anyone else considering changing their name for Jo?
Well, if you come to my office, there are currently 4 Joes. One of them is my PA, and you can say Jo, and quite a lot of us will put our head up. So there's plenty of openings in our practice for anybody called Jo.
Okay, I'll throw this out to the panel. Anyone can pick this one up. How have you measured your success in your chosen career?
For me personally, I've moved a number of agencies whilst I've been working, and one of the really nice things is the clients that have followed me, and the staff as well that have come back and worked with me again and again. So that's really nice. I think that clients kind of actually want to go with you and recognise your value and your involvement, and also add the history of knowledge of their business. So for me, that's quite a good measure of success.
Okay.
I think mine sounds really rudimentary, and I don't want it to, but I actually brought along, which is very, very sad, a meeting that we had on the 5th of July 2002, where the 4 of us made a list of why we were setting up a company and what we wanted to achieve from it. And at each management meeting, we go through this list and we give it a ranking of 1 to 10. And it sounds very simple, but it's our basis of a happy life. And it is number 1, do we have a life? Is our number 1 criteria. Actually, we weren't doing too bad on this particular meeting. I ranked it 7 out of 10, so it wasn't too bad. But this is basically the fundamentals behind the whole company. It's, are we motivated? Do we work within a reasonable distance from our home? Which might sound basic, but if you're a mum, it's really important. Do we work ethically? Are we proud of what we do? And do we do things that we're actually good at? And we actually rank these all the time. And in terms of measuring success, if we're scoring over 7, we're doing quite well.
And you still do this now?
We still do it every management meeting.
It's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, it might not sound strategic, but it actually is why we get up every day and go to work. So it's key.
I get to go to build projects, and this year we've been to the Greenwich Royal Observatory and the reopening of the Royal Festival Hall. Some of those, the Royal Festival Hall, I think we must have been working on and off for 12, 14 years. I mean, it's been started with the house architect role and designing where the telephone booth should be and redoing the baby changing area. And it's ended up with that mammoth project, and even though I was involved in early stage and wasn't there at the end, to see a team actually deliver that, and we're very, very proud of them, and it's great when they've actually delivered it, and it's on time, on budget, all that stuff, and it's very rewarding and quite inspiring.
Well, I'm going to come to another question that's been I've been asked to ask, which is the culture of your organisation different because it's got a woman or women in senior positions? And if so, how would you describe that?
Let me start.
Anyone can pick it up.
I'd say almost certainly it is different, and I think the point that you made that perhaps a man's meeting would not be conducted in the same way, and I think we're acutely aware of that, and therefore really encourage men to join the company, because it is very important to have both sides. We don't want to be it's not a big love-in at work, you know what I mean? We have to be it's important to have men there as well. But I think the key thing for us is that we are aware of the fact that women have babies, and you have to try and plan those into your career. We have some fantastic younger people at Fourth Day that we know in time will be having children like we had children, and we absolutely don't want to lose talented people like that from the workforce. So we're absolutely geared up to making sure that they know they don't have to give up work if they don't want to, that somehow we could make it work. And I don't know whether that's because we are a woman-run organisation. I'd like to think that all organisations would be like that now, but I certainly think that we're perhaps more aware of it.
I think it encourages a sense of flexibility. I mean, I also work 4 days a week. Otherwise my entire family would go probably crazy, attached as I am to the mobile phone. Things like maternity leave have never been an issue, and we may not yet, like big industries, be able to offer fantastic maternity leave packages, but we encourage people to come back. And if they only want to come back 2 days a week to start with, and then 3, and then 4, what we really want them is we want them to come back over the threshold and contribute in some way back to the practice.
So you make it easy for them to come back?
We try to make it easy, and we try to make as flexible we can in order that people can pick up from childcare at the right times or whatever it is. So I think we've been offering flexible terms well before the government made it a kind of compulsory activity. We have always had a large proportion of female staff compared to the industry, but I mean, there's always room for improvement. There are 2 out of the 9 partners are women, 4 out of the 11 directors are women. It can always get better, but we're doing better than the industry generally.
What proportion of women are in your company as a whole?
Well, embarrassingly, I didn't check that, but when there was a survey a couple of years ago by Building Design magazine, who were pushing something called 50-50 women, and they were concerned that offices in London were not pushing to a commitment to raise their levels to 50-50, and it produced quite a heated debate in the office, and I was actually against signing up to that petition because I felt it was actually producing a selective way of interviewing. Where I actually wanted to just get the best candidate through the door. And we were, at that point, we were about 42% women. So we were doing pretty well compared to, so I didn't think we needed to be very vocal about it at the time. But it did produce quite a controversial debate in the office. I actually don't know what we are today. I should find it out and post it to Peter for his website.
Joe?
It's quite a difficult question for me actually, because I work in quite a male-dominated environment, but sadly that's kind of what I'm used to. I mentioned I did a product design degree. I was one of 3 girls on the course of 30, and I think the design business generally, the type of design business that I'm involved in is very male heavy. Our company in particular has 8 partners, all of which are guys, and I think that's probably a testament of the situation rather than a particular desire not to involve women. There are 5 associates in the company. I'm one of them. There's one other girl as well. And I work 5 days a week. I don't have children, but I struggle in working 5 days a week. So absolute admiration to anybody who does less and also raises a family. But yeah, it's a tough one. Is the company different because it's governed by men? I would say yes. I think we have had 2 women fall pregnant within the company within the past year, but they're probably the first in the last 5 years. And up until that point, our maternity package was appalling. They were really offering the minimum possible. We're now part of a larger group, the Lowy Group, and it means that we're watched more closely, and obviously we have a benchmark to live up to, so that the maternity package has got a lot better. Early days to say, will they come back, won't they come back? Will that be a personal decision, or will that be because it was easier for them to stay away than to return? But certainly as a company, we're child friendly. I would say We're probably 70-30 male-female split, and probably half of the men working in the company are fathers. So we have a high proportion of parents in the company. So I think time will tell, and I think they recognise that there is a need.
It's the change thing, isn't it?
That it has to
was talking about.
happen. I just think we're a little bit behind, just because of circumstances, maybe more than anything else. I have worked for women before, on numerous occasions, and I think my experience probably has been that the women that I've worked for have tended to overcompensate for that fact, and have sort of ended up in that awful Katie, whatever her name was on The Apprentice, that made us all cringe, how dreadful, awful person,
It's scary.
And kind of almost have taken on that persona, which is particularly unattractive, I think. So yeah, I think it's beginning to settle down, hopefully, and women aren't feeling the need to be so gung-ho in order to do well in business. But yeah, for the team, time will tell. Yeah, ask me next year, and maybe hopefully there'll be some good news, and the new mothers in the company will be back and working and bringing their expertise back into the company.
Maybe you'll be on board.
Maybe on the board. Maybe I'll be a mum. Who knows? Either could happen. Maybe both. It's about 3 dads recently. All have taken paternity leave. I don't think any of them are taking flexible working, actually. They're all still working their 5 days.
Same question.
They all take paternity leave, and they normally take about 2 weeks, and we normally allow them to take that 2 weeks when they want to, even though the law says they should take it as the baby arrives. Some of them actually want to take it at a different time, and we have several fathers on flexible working.
None of our men have children, actually, so it's not an issue. But I mean, my husband does 4 days a week as well, and I think companies are becoming a little bit more aware of men needing to do and wanting to do the same role as women. More importantly, yeah.
Does anyone else in the audience have any experiences to share with regard to that question? Stand up.
One of them, the guys, has got 2 children, and he has flexible working hours. And one of our purpose of setting up our own company was so we could be flexible, similar to what you're saying, your objectives, and so that we could have a life and not have to work all the hours under the sun. So yes, we may work the weekends and things and whatever, but that's compensated by, we've got to take the kids swimming on, let's say, afternoons or whatever. That's how it works, so it also evens out. So we're very flexible, whether we're male or female, sort of thing. So it's the best way to work. Everyone's happy.
I mean, it is difficult because I won't deny that as a small company, people constantly taking maternity leaves can be quite difficult financially, and it is a challenge. But I think somehow, if you want to keep the talent within the organisation, you've got to try and work it out somehow. What
are some of the other challenges that you faced as you sort of climbed up the tree, if you like?
Learning business management.
Really?
We all go to architecture school and we learn how to design and how to build buildings, and growing from 4 to 220 it's been an interesting experience in, oh my god, what do we do now? Not quite that, but we've just had some management consultants kind of look at the way we do things, and they kind of scratch their head and go, well, why would you do it like that? Well, so that's because we've always done it like that. It works, and that's been comfortable. But if we're going to continue to grow, some of those slightly small practice things have got to be dealt with in now as a big practice, and they are learning about business and management to some extent. So that is, we're a partnership. We're not a limited company or a business, and that's just a challenge. It is a challenge. We've just taken on an HR manager.
Ooh,
God, and all this stuff that grows into. It's sort of, oh my God! I know. I'm part of a partner in a company that has an HR manager. It's
fantastic.
It feels very daunting. But the idea is that all these new roles, business type roles, are really just to assist the smooth running of the place. If that's the case, then and get us back to design, so much better, really.
So it was taking your time away from what you should be doing, basically. Really, because
yes, I mean you sometimes feel you're pedalling incredibly hard, and you're doing lots and lots of things, but actually, what you should be doing, you're actually doing less % of your time on. Yeah. So we're trying to refocus the key people on design and make certain that we can minimise the stuff that we shouldn't be doing. It's a big challenge.
I actually work for a firm of architects as well, though I'm not an architect. But
you're probably the HR manager.
No, I'm business development. But this is just the latest stage in my checkered career. But I've encountered a lot of other people over the years. I've worked in the private sector, the public sector. I've worked for myself, small organisations, large organisations. And I think you bring different things as you move from one role to the next. You bring sort of habits with you that you've learned in the other place, and that some of those are good things and some of those are not quite so good, because you suddenly arrive and think, actually, that's a much better way to do it. Well, why didn't I think of that when I was in my last job? And I think, this sort of being receptive to change, I think, is very important. More so, I think, as a woman, I find that as well, that if you dig your heels in and say, no, it ain't broke, so we don't fix it. We've always done it this way. You've got to open yourself up and sort of be receptive, because change is here.
Well, it's one of the great things about being an architect is you're trained to criticise your work all the time and change it and always try and make something better. So that's, I think, it's easier for us than it might have been if we'd had other business training.
I'm going to pick on one person in the audience who I know works for a large organisation. Patsy works for... Are you okay, Nikki? I'm worried you're not going to survive the evening.
I'm fine. Sorry. I've got that tickly cough that won't go away, sorry.
Patsy works for Lloyd's TSB. Do you want to tell us about some of the challenges you faced?
You mean generally as a female, or...?
In a large organisation as a female, yes.
In a large organisation as a female, yeah, it is challenging. And I was just listening to the discussion that you were saying earlier, and it is quite male-dominated, and Lloyd's TSB has been around since sort of 1877 or something, so, some people fondly refer to it as the old boys club, So, yeah, I would say the majority of the management are men. But, we are starting to change, I would say. We're starting to recruit women, or the right talents, if you like, some of which are women in high positions. We have a women's network, which, depending on the way you look at it, some people would say that if an organisation needs to have one, it is significant of the fact that there are some things that they could do differently or could improve on. Or at least I think so anyway. I think success would be if we didn't need a network. Because obviously a lot of the discussions within the Women Network are about that glass ceiling and those sorts of things, and it encourages it. It's sort of similar to this. We have sort of breakfast mornings where the women who are higher in the organisation, we can put questions to them, they can share their experiences with us, and all of those sorts of things. So, change is coming. I mean, I personally used to be a mainframe developer, which is completely male-dominated. And so, that was quite, I'd say challenging, but really, I just got on with the job, really, and it was my passion to be a programmer. So, I didn't really let the whole male domination involve me, but I was working in Yorkshire at one point, and, that is just taking male domination to another level. But yes, as a large organisation, there are a lot of challenges, and I think it being a global organisation that probably was predominantly male-dominated, finance maybe years and years ago. So yes, we are seeing change. They have got a women's network and ethnic minority network. There's Spectrum, which is a lesbian and gay and bisexual network. We've got Axis, which is a disability network. So, not just the women, but trying to address all of the issues that affect people in general and trying to move forward. So I think at least the fact that they've got the networks, at least they've got the recognition and they are trying to change things. And each of those networks has got a sponsor who is, one of the executives that sort of champions that and make sure they have money for, sort of having meetings and conferences and things like that. So,
that's really encouraging, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I'm back with Lloyd's. Right, so I think we're looking at trying to wrap it up. I just wanted to ask the panel if you had any sort of encouraging words of advice to offer people to sort of send them away with a real positive spring in their step.
I think the only thing I'd say is that, when we started our own company, in hindsight, we took a huge risk because we gave everything up. We had homes to pay for, and we gave it all up. And at the time, we absolutely couldn't see that we had anything to lose. To us, it was an absolute, of course we'll do it. If it doesn't work, we'll just get another job. And I think I just encourage everyone to have the courage of their convictions, really. And if they think they can have it all, then absolutely go for it and have it all. That's what I'd say.
Jo?
I have a fantastic support structure behind, whether it's, my husband who's home on time tonight or great help at home. I could never walk out. My children are now 9 and 11. And I have great help at home, and I have, grandparents who fill in at half term and things like that. I wouldn't have been able to enjoy my career nearly as much without all of those things being in place. So you have to look after the people who support you in order to be successful. And whether that's staff in the office or staff at home, make certain that everybody's really happy, and then actually you can just get on and enjoy what you want to do.
That's good advice, Jo.
Mine's probably a few years old now, but you sort of get these bits of wisdom at certain points in your life, and I think when I left college, I had everything to prove, to the point that I actually became this sort of young, hungry graduate, so eager to please that I ceased to be myself. And I remember, and I had a boss at the time who was this typical kind of power-suited woman, and I felt that was how you needed to be to get on, and she had no life whatsoever, literally dragged her desk around with her and was fully prepared for every possible meeting, never did anything off the cuff, and she was like a machine, and that's what I thought equaled success. And I did have this kind of eureka moment when somebody sort of said to me, just chill out a bit, just kind of stop trying so hard, I see you in the pub and you're great fun, and yet at work you're boring, you're such a dull person, sort of get over it. So I that would be kind of the biggest thing is sort of don't take yourself too seriously and just kind of get on with it and enjoy. It works so much, and if you're not having a good time, then just find something else to do.
Do less.
Do less. Or do less. Yes, that would be kind of my
good advice.
My leaving.
Does anyone else have any other questions?
I just wonder if women are looking for something different in the working environment than what the panel feel, how they kind of score Bankside against that, whatever they might be looking for.
Clothes shops.
They're coming. Shops are coming. Pret a Manger, Marks and Spencer. They're all moving to Bankside. I don't know where the clothes are, but they're.
Because IPC run a bus at the Covent Garden, so that they can get up there.
Do they?
Well, I'm always pressing you for a shuttle bus. I want to go on a little shuttle bus. In Hong Kong, when you lived in Hong Kong, these shuttle buses, you got on this yellow and green bus, and it only ever seemed to get 20 minutes to get exactly where you wanted to go, and they were tiny. But I don't jest about flogging up to Borough Market. It's not. I'd like to go there all the time, but I never get the time unless I'm right on a crunch point of I should have had some food in the fridge at home. And actually, if there was a shuttle bus, that worked between Waterloo and London Bridge, and maybe went over the other side and looped back the other way, or looped back both ways, I think we'd feel more connected somehow. until the break between the Bankside buildings and the crosswalk across the engine room of the Tate opens up, and that will link Southwark Street to the Wobbly Bridge. We don't feel a very permeable environment, and I mean, the better Bankside bikes and things have all been great. We have those and things like that, but a more permeable and a more efficient transport, local transport, just doing little routes would be very helpful, because once you get to one of the stations, you can go wherever you want. But we're all trying to get home on a schedule, and more transport, or to the shops or whatever it is.
And can I say, someone who's terrifying me in this audience, based on the other side of the river, I'm sorry. We would love to be doing more and having more links. But if I could just, I mean, tonight I jumped on the bus down to the street and walked across, and that's fine. But any further in, and I'm actually looking at plotting a route with military precision to fit it into my day. So I think it would be a lot easier if that kind of permanent thing was there to build links between. Because, for example, if I want to nip up to Clerkenwell, I can do it. You know, not a problem. But nipping over here, it's a mission.
Yeah, I wouldn't even dream of nipping to Clerkenwell in a break or whatever.
Also speaking kind of from creative industries, there is a really nice kind of creative buzz around here, which is picked up certainly in the last 3 years that I've been working here, which is great. And I guess if too many commercial enterprises come in, then that ceases to be. So it is kind of a balance.
It's getting the balance right, isn't it?
Yeah. We always feel very proud and sort of have a bit of cachet with inviting clients to this area, because it's not a lot of our industry is based around Covent Garden or Oxford Street, which is obviously incredibly busy and very retail driven, whereas here it just has its own little character, which is quite nice.
Well, I'd just like to, before I wrap up the proceedings, I don't know if anyone else was at a dinner the other week, the Every Woman of Influence dinner. One of the guest speakers there was Baroness Valerie Amos. Has anyone ever heard her speak? And she left with some top tips for business success. So I'd just like to share these, just 8 little bullets, right? Because I think she was a particularly inspirational speaker, former leader of the House of Lords, first black woman to do that. Always be clear to yourself about what and why you want to achieve. Don't be afraid to admit you need help and support. Build alliances. Always be the best you can. Get feedback and learn from your mistakes. Be flexible and seize opportunities. Don't be afraid to be first. And above all, have fun. And I think, they're not my words, they're her words, but I think that was a nice way to sort of end on a positive note. And I'd like you to join me in thanking our panel this evening, Jo, and Nicola.